Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. This is a bit of an optimistic series. Let's call it the Narcissistic Victory Series. So here's the question. What does a victory in a narcissistic relationship look like? Obviously, some people may think it looks like the narcissist getting punished or getting called out and us being fabulous and walking into a fabulous sunset. No, that version may not happen for most of us. But really, what does narcissistic victory as part of recovery look like? How do we celebrate these victories? How do you know you are actually healing from narcissistic abuse? And what do you do about those setbacks? This Narcissistic Victory series, will take on all of that and more. But the initial question was powerful. What does a victory even look like? Please drop a comment right now. What has victory looked like for you in a narcissistic relationship, if you've experienced any of those victories? Maybe let's now take this to a more fine point. What does victory look like if you are still in a narcissistic relationship? I'd like to thank one of our viewers named Tim for this one. You know who you are. He sent an email, and that email led me thinking for a few weeks about several issues here, and it dovetailed at the same time with several conversations I've had with survivors in the past few months. I loved his thought, like, what does a narcissistic victory look like? In the first episode of the series, we're going to talk about what victory looks like in a narcissistic relationship that you are still in, because I know that's a lot of you out there. The fact is that the victories can look a little different depending on whether you're in the relationship, out of the relationship, and even the type of relationship that it is. But if you are in one of these relationships, you're still in, very in your narcissistic relationship, what does victory look like? So, number one, victory looks like this. You catch yourself before you share good news. Now, this is a concept I've actually talked about for years. I've said it consistently in narcissistic relationships. You can't share good news with the narcissist when you're in one of these relationships, or for that matter, bad news either. But sharing good news with an important narcissist in your life, for example, a partner, is such a common error. I'm going to tell them this good thing that happened, and they're going to be so happy for me, and we're going to have a good evening. And many times, people make the further mistake, not even just of sharing their good news, but they make the mistake of telling the narcissistic person their good news first. And then by doing that, they have to deal with the narcissistic person's invalidation or minimization or mockery, and the good news loses all of its joy. So in this case, what does victory look like? This is what victory looks like. You get good news, and you share it with other people first. The fact is that the narcissist is going to get angry if they learn your good news from a third person. But if they do that and come back at you and say, why didn't you tell me? You could say, I didn't think the good news was that big a deal. The fact is, narcissistic people hate not being in the know, but then they want to criticize you for your good news. The victory in this case is that you shared your good news with other people first who are happy for you. Or you can share the good news with other people first, and after you got to experience the good vibes around your good news, then and only then tell the narcissistic person. So even if they do invalidate you, and they probably will, it won't sting nearly as much because you really got to enjoy it. Number two, you set a boundary. For example, not agreeing to go to something or do something that's not good for you. Narcissistic relationships are like a series of bad gags that people keep falling for. Setting a boundary and sticking to it, even in a small way, is a way to feel a sense of strength within your narcissistic relationship. The boundary may be small or big, but to do it, to set that boundary and hold that boundary and not be manipulated out of it, can help you build what's called a sense of efficacy, like that you know you can do it in this relationship. It is uncomfortable as hell to do this, but after the first several times, you may get better at it. The victory then becomes setting the boundary and sticking to it. Start small and work your way up. It's not easy to maintain boundaries with a narcissist, but even if you can find some small ones, you'll feel a lot better. Number 3 way to get victories is you avoid sharing information with the enablers. The enablers are a big part of the narcissistic picture. They are what keep the narcissist propped up, that keep gaslighting you on top of the narcissist gaslighting you, and they legitimize the narcissist to the world, often making you look more foolish. Many times, people may actually get good at not sharing information with the narcissist, but they keep making the mistake of sharing information with the enablers. And sometimes these enablers are flying monkeys who take that information you give them and share it with the narcissist straight away. Self-protection can mean ensuring that you stop sharing information that, for example, may be an issue for the narcissist with people who will take it and use it against you or share it with the narcissist. The victory in this case is you got to figure out who the enablers are, and that's its own work. But you got to figure out who the enablers are, and then you need to learn to become as restrained with them as you are learning to be with the narcissists. Victory kind of number 4, if you're still in a relationship, you don't take the bait. This is a big one. It cuts to the core of being able to firewall and gray rock in these relationships. Not taking the bait, not engaging, not giving them what they want, and you getting all frothed up and reacting. That's actually one of the biggest victories that you can have. It's hard initially because they get angry when you don't engage, and they will double down and bait and gaslight more and escalate the baiting. If you can be resolute and not give in, you can get through to the other side. And sometimes it leads the narcissist to find new targets that are more baitable and might kind of get the narcissist off your back. The victory in this case is simply that you don't take the bait and you don't crack even when they keep turning up the volume on the baiting and they really say and really do hurtful things. This is not easy because they will keep upping the baiting, going after things and after people that are sacred to you. Hold your ground. That's a big victory. Number 5, you stop telling things to the narcissist. You stop sharing things with the narcissist and expecting validation. Now, this is a riff on the number 1 sort of point I made here, and it's this idea of not sharing good news, but a little bit different. A mistake that many people make in narcissistic relationships is that they may just tell the narcissist, "Ooh, I got a compliment from my boss today," or "Our friends were telling me what a great cook I am." People often do this to see if they can evoke a rare bit of validation from the narcissist in their lives. Don't do it. It doesn't feel good when you have to try and pry validation out of the narcissist. It may end up in them making fun of you or asking, why is it that you need so much validation? Despite the fact that you are getting none in this relationship, and if this is one of your primary relationships, that can really feel hard. And you are often doing this to try to convince yourself that, see, I told them something good and they validate me. No, they don't. And having to pull the validation out of them doesn't count, and it rarely works. The victory on this one is you don't do it. And you recognize that when it comes to validation, the narcissistic person is in fact an empty well. Number 6 is you maintain your realistic expectations and don't get as disappointed. That's a big victory in these relationships. A central pillar to surviving a narcissistic relationship is realistic expectations. You don't expect validation, you don't expect empathy, you don't expect respect. It sucks, but at least it's honest. Realistic expectations are a hedge against disappointment, and disappointment doesn't feel good, and it is what can really take a psychological toll on you. The victory here, if you have these realistic expectations, you aren't as disappointed or surprised when they let you down. It may still hurt a little. In fact, it will still hurt a little. But it is less shocking, and you almost grow to expect it. And slowly, you rely on them for less and less. Number 7 victory is you actually learn to have a plan B in place. Now, this builds upon the realistic expectations. Here's a classic version of this: the drive to the doctor. There is a classical error people make in narcissistic relationships. You think, I know they're an ass most of the time. I know they have no empathy, but I really do believe that when I am sick, that they will step up because everyone helps sick people. I mean, no one's going to let me down then. No, not everybody does help sick people, and no, they're not going to help you when you're sick. Let's say you have an appointment for a procedure or some other medical appointment or something where you won't be allowed to drive yourself home. At those times, I highly recommend you set up a hard and fast plan B. That may be a friend, a family member, a transport service, or a taxi, or some sort of Uber or something like that. You are welcome to ask the narcissist, hey, I have my procedure tomorrow, and I need to be there at 7. And when they yammer on about how they're oh so busy, or what, you never told me you had this appointment. Yes, you did. Then you can calmly say, no worries, my friend from work said she can do it. The victory on this one is that you take away their power by having a plan B. In essence, when a narcissistic person pushes back on what you need, it's a form of baiting. And lots of people say, what? You're not going to take me to the doctor? Well, having a plan B is the ultimate anti-bait. Number 8 way to have a victory is you actually make the deep technique work. You remember deep, my easy technique to avoid getting sucked in too much. Don't defend, don't explain, don't engage, don't personalize. This technique takes in a lot of territory. It helps with baiting, it addresses gaslighting, it helps with self-blame, and it saves time. It's not easy initially because it is natural to want to defend and explain. And this all feels personal. And because you are in a relationship with this person, obviously you want to engage. But any form of engaging is wasting time. The victory here is that by using the deep technique, what do? You take away their power and you feel more sane. Victory number 9, you don't fall for the gaslighting. Let's save the best for last on this one. Remember that gaslighting is a process of grooming, manipulation, and then a way to dominate you by doubting your reality and then painting you out to be the one who is unstable or delusional or confused or mentally ill. There are a few ways to do this. One, going backwards a little here, is using the deep technique, not responding or not reacting in a given moment. Sometimes you may even need to do a fake kind of a capitulation. You're right, you've said it before, I don't know what I'm talking about. And then you disengage. Now, this last bit is a little bit passive-aggressive, but when you are being gaslighted, let's face it, it's survival time. And always, always hold on to your reality. The victory, when you're stuck in one of these narcissistic relationships and you can sort of push back on the gaslighting, the victory is that you do not let them leave you questioning yourself anymore, and you end up taking away a lot of their power. Gaslighting, in a way, is a form of baiting because it happens so much over time, it leaves you confused and doubting yourself. So these are some examples of victories that could happen if you end up currently staying in or planning on staying in a narcissistic relationship. Stay tuned, because the victories when you are out of the relationship will be coming up in one of our next videos in this series. The accumulation of these small victories over time mean that at least you are creating a safe space in yourself, in a space that is not safe. A narcissistic relationship will never be good for you, nor will it ever feel good. But you can have these small victories that may at least make it bearable, so you can foster and cultivate other areas of your life. So if you have any other thoughts about what might represent a narcissistic victory if you stay in one of these relationships, please do drop it in the comments. Thanks as always for tuning in. If you like this new series, this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel, because that way, and you hit that notification bell, you'll get notifications every day when we have new content coming out on narcissism and narcissistic abuse. Thanks again.